Coming up on Good Morning Northwest, we're learning more about a police shooting overnight in Hazel Dell.
Plus, we're talking about when your travel plans could finally take off again.
And are those winds, or did they keep you up overnight? Well, we still have a wind advisory in place for today. More details, that Friday forecast, it's coming up.
From Camp KVUE Local News, this is Good Morning Northwest.
Good morning, Northwest, and thanks for joining us. Happy Friday, everybody. You know, Kristen, when Neil and I were walking into work today, I almost felt like we were going to be blown over by that wind.
It's crazy, just crazy how strong those wind gusts were last night. Certainly kept me awake. I think I was tossing and turning for most of the night because of some of those strong winds. And I'm sure many are in the same boat. But there's going to be improvements today. So let's talk about that Friday forecast for you as we're giving you a live look in downtown Yakima. I think the majority of the area, at least the first half of the day today, will see those winds. As I mentioned, wind advisory until noon today. Some of our current wind gusts, especially around the Columbia Basin Tri-Cities at 32 with those wind gusts, 34 in Walla Walla, and even over into Yakima, your current wind gust up to about 43 miles per hour. And we have dry conditions here locally, but notice the snow that is still flying through the eastern slopes, Cascades, northern Blues, with that winter weather advisory still in place throughout the majority of the day today for some locations. But 47 right now, Tri-Cities, mid-40s in Walla Walla, and close to 50 early this morning for Yakima. We are expecting that sunshine to return and close to 60 degrees by later on this afternoon. But could we see more wind on the way for the upcoming weekend? I'll have that full forecast, Monica. It's coming up.
Thank you, Kristen. Well, Kennewick police are asking for help in identifying a man seen on camera breaking into a local Dutch Bros coffee shop. Earlier this week, the man used a rock to break the window of the coffee shop on Columbia Drive, and then he took off with an iPad. If you know him or have any information about this, Kennewick police ask that you give them a call. Washington police are investigating a shooting in Hazel Dell overnight. Officials say a suspect was shot by deputies and rushed to a hospital in critical condition. The suspect's name or age hasn't been released yet. It's also unclear what led up to the shooting by deputies. Authorities said the deputies involved were placed on leave, which is standard procedure. We're tracking more legal trouble for Easter Day ranches and farms. They already filed for bankruptcy this week after Tyson Foods sued, saying Easter Day charged them for hundreds of thousands of cattle that didn't exist. Now, Washington Trust Bank is suing too, saying Easter Day defaulted on a $45 million loan agreement. The bank is fighting to get that money back, even if it means taking possession of props and other collateral from Easter Day. Grocery store workers in Seattle are getting hazard pay, but it might not last for long. Seattle City Council approved an extra $4 per hour for grocery store workers at big chain stores during the pandemic. That kicked in this week. But now the Seattle Times reports the Northwest Grocery Association and the Washington Food Industry Association are both suing. In the lawsuit, they say it's not fair. The big grocery stores are being singled out, and they said paycheck negotiations should be left up to unions, not pushed through City Council. Trader Joe's is temporarily doubling its pandemic pay for hourly workers. They announced the raise in a blog post saying they've been paying crew members $2 more an hour since the start of the pandemic, and they're now boosting that to $4 as a thank you. While not mentioning it in the memo, the move does bring Trader Joe's in line with the new hazard pay law in Seattle. Meanwhile, according to the Seattle Times, Trader Joe's management said in a letter posted on a store bulletin board that it's canceling mid-year raises this year. They were set for summer. Employees told the Times the raise is usually 65 to 75 cents per hour.
A survey by Expedia shows almost 2/3 of Americans are feeling vacation deprived and planning to make it up this year. That could be good news for airports. Locally, the Tri-Cities Airport reported a 57% decline in passengers from 2019 to last year. And in April, the airport had the fewest amount of travelers since it opened. Airport officials are hopeful that this year will be different.
You know, I'm optimistic that this year we'll see an improvement. I'm not looking for big changes this year, but I am optimistic that we start to see that trend line creep up.
The airport has implemented many safety precautions since the pandemic started. Taft told us he's looking forward to 2022 and 2023 for a full return to traveling. Take a look at this. Former teacher and nurse Juanita De Luna created this free library in Pasco last March when the pandemic began. She says she was inspired by children she knew who had to stay home. but she had no idea what it would turn into. Now she receives hundreds of donated books and toys from the community. DeLuna says she couldn't do it without that support.
It makes me cry sometimes a little bit, you know, it makes me so happy that people are blessed by this.
Each book and toy is cleaned and wrapped for COVID-19 safety. The library is open every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and she says everyone is welcome to stop by. If you have anything to donate, DeLuna says you can just leave it on her doorstep on Palmera Drive. The Richland Public Library is allowing people inside once again from 10 a.m. until noon and then again from 4 until 6 Monday through Friday. You have to wear a mask, no exceptions, plus computers are still off limits and you can only stay 30 minutes at a time. The library is still offering curbside service, and if you don't have a computer access to make requests, you can give the library a call at their number right there on your screen.
Let's take a quick break here now on Good Morning Northwest, but before we do, let's take a live look outside.
And looking at a windy start to our day today, what does the weekend have in store for us? I'll break it all down. Your full forecast, it's coming up.
Plus, we're taking a look at some of the storylines ahead of Super Bowl 55 and hearing from one of the quarterbacks.
You know about the Cap KV Local News apps for iPhone and Android, but now get Cap KV Local News on your Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. To watch, just download the Cap KV Plus app. Stream news, weather, news on demand, special reports, and much more anytime, anywhere. It's simple and it's convenient. Cap KV Plus, Cap KV Local News on your schedule. Search Cap KV, then download the Cap KV Plus app now. The Cap KV mobile apps are powered by Valley Mall.
Welcome back to Good Morning Northwest. Someone will make history Sunday in a Super Bowl so filled with storylines it would fill a season of TV programming. Tom Brady now going for a 7th ring, and Patrick Mahomes, the apparent heir to the quarterbacking summit, seeking a 2nd in a row with Kansas City. Something no team has done since Brady led New England to back-to-back wins in the 03 and 04 seasons. Here's what Brady had to say about winning the big game Sunday.
That's the best part about winning, is having the people that have helped you get there and support you there with you to enjoy it. So some of the best memories I've had in my life were being with my kids right after the Super Bowl and celebrating with them. So I hope we have that experience on Sunday. It's going to be a really tough game, so we're going to have to go earn it. But if we get the job done, that's exactly what I'll be doing.
Sunday, the 43-year-old will be the first ever quarterback to host a Super Bowl. We don't know who will win Super Bowl 55, but the big sports betting and fantasy firms are already champions. DraftKings shares have surged nearly 35% this year ahead of Sunday's big game in Tampa. The stock is up nearly 260% since it went public last April following a merger with a blank check special purpose acquisition company. This is the 3rd Super Bowl since the Supreme Court legalized sports betting at the state level in 2018. That means 2021 could be the best year yet for the gambling giants. Football fans in more than 24 states and Washington, D.C. now have the ability to legally bet on sports online via mobile apps or in person at licensed sports books. Coming up on Good Morning Northwest, what led up to the fatal shooting of a police officer in New Mexico?
Welcome back. In news from across America, in New Mexico, part of an interstate was closed after the fatal shooting of a state police officer. It happened as the officer was conducting a traffic stop. The suspect shot and killed Officer Darian Jarrett. Then he took off down the interstate. Las Cruces police responded and an officer tried to stop the suspect, but the suspect got out of his truck and opened fire on that officer. He was shot and taken to a nearby hospital. That officer is expected to be okay. According to state police, the suspect who shot both officers is dead. The investigation is ongoing. Prosecutors in Minnesota are asking third-degree murder charges to be reinstated in the George Floyd case. A motion was filed yesterday requesting a district court judge to again charge former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin with third-degree murder and add third-degree murder charges against former officers Tao Thao, J. Alexander Kueng, and Thomas Lane. The judge hasn't made a ruling yet. Right now, Chauvin is charged with second-degree unintentional murder and second-degree manslaughter. The 3 other former officers involved in the incident are charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and manslaughter. A Texas florist already charged in the U.S. Capitol riots is now facing another charge. 3 new counts were filed against Jenny Could in a federal grand jury indictment. One of the counts is obstruction of an official proceeding. That's a felony charge similar to witness tampering, and it carries a possible maximum sentence of up to 20 years in prison. Before yesterday, Could faced only 2 misdemeanor charges. She asked the court earlier this week for permission to travel to Mexico for a work retreat. The judge hasn't yet responded to her request. 3 lawmakers are calling on President Biden to declare a national climate emergency. Democratic Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Earl Blumenauer, and Senator Bernie Sanders introduced the National Climate Emergency Act yesterday. The bill would direct the president to use the National Emergencies Act of 1976 to fight climate change. If passed, it would also require the White House to make infrastructure upgrades and other investments and provide Congress with a report on how it is combating the climate crisis. The lawmakers had introduced a similar resolution in 2019. And President Biden has officially signed off on the disaster declaration for parts of eastern Washington devastated by wildfires last September. This means we'll get federal money to help rebuild. Right now, 9 counties, including Franklin, Yakima, and Kittitas, are eligible for public assistance funding. Officials are still reviewing whether to approve any individual assistance.
Now, Cap KVU First Alert Weather with Chief Meteorologist Kristen Walls.
And it has certainly been windy across the area, and we're looking to stay a bit breezy as we head into the upcoming weekend. We will have a little bit of some relief from the winds, especially later on this afternoon. But we're looking at some of those gusts for today up to 50 miles per hour. More mountain snow in the forecast as we head throughout the weekend, but we're also looking at some fairly mild temperatures over the next couple of days before we see a big temperature drop. Take a look at those numbers as we head into next week. So we go from close to 60 degrees today down into the 30s for next week. So 39 Tuesday, 36 on Wednesday, and then 36 degrees on Thursday. So we'll see kind of a big drop in numbers as we take into next week. But right now we are dealing with a lot of that wind advisory that's in effect until noon. Columbia Basin, Walla Walla, and Yakima. In the first half of the day today, we're still looking at some of those gusts could be up to about 50 miles per hour. But as I mentioned, the second half of the day, we will see some lighter winds. But these are your sustained winds right now, close to about 20 in the Tri-Cities, up to about 24 in Yakima. And then, of course, some of those wind gusts are even higher at 32 Tri-Cities, gusting up to 40 in Hermiston and then 43 over into Yakima. So you can see here with Futurecast, we'll see a little bit of some relief as we take you throughout later on this afternoon. But we will get another system in here for Saturday, and those numbers start to go back up. So we're looking at some of those gusts once again on Saturday that could be up to about 45 miles per hour. So more wind in the forecast. Winter weather advisory still continues for the eastern slopes and the Cascades until 7 a.m. A little bit longer for the Blue Mountains. That goes until 3 p.m. But the mountain snow will also be winding down as we take you throughout this afternoon. This is pretty much the reason we have the wind here locally. As you can see, a lot of the active weather that we have through the eastern slopes and the Cascades this morning. Same thing for the Blues. And the system continues to dive in from the north. So there's still a little bit of some advisories if you're going to be traveling. Traction tires advised for Snoqualmie Pass right now, required for White Pass. And another thing to consider, White Pass, at least right now, they have the snow, but they also have the winds that are picking up, limiting visibility. So that's going to be an issue as well. But Manastash right now, just an overcast sky with no travel restrictions. So as we look ahead into your weekend, there's a look at later on this afternoon. A lot of the mountain snow winding down. Our wind locally will get a little bit of a brief break. Next system dives in, we'll get a little bit more mountain snow. Our wind picking up locally, still dry. So throughout the weekend, we will see some sunshine and clouds. And then by Sunday, we'll have just a mixture of some sunshine and clouds as well, and thankfully some lighter winds. But these temperatures out the door, mid to upper 40s around the area. And then we're going to be heading up to about 54 today in Yakima with 56 in Toppenish, close to 60 today in the Tri-Cities, and then 56 degrees in Prosser. Over into Walla Walla, 54, and then 53 for Pendleton. So for tonight, we're looking at a mainly clear sky, lighter winds out there, mid-30s across the area, close to 40 in the Tri-Cities. But there's your 7-day. Again, enjoying some of that sun over the weekend, lighter wind on Sunday at 51, and then those temperatures go back down. Although we're going to see a lot of sunshine next week, but it's just going to be very cold. And then your 7-day forecast for Yakima, also looking at those winds sticking around. As we start your upcoming weekend on Saturday, lighter wind there Sunday, just a little bit colder at 47.
Thank you, Kristen. At 5:20, we're going to take a quick break here on Good Morning Northwest. But coming up, ahead of Super Bowl 55, a member from one of the teams has contracted coronavirus. What this will mean for some players.
Welcome back to Good Morning Northwest. Handling the COVID-19 pandemic wasn't easy on the NFL. The virus led to shuffled schedules, including a Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers game being played on a Wednesday afternoon. Yesterday, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell admitted that there were periods of time when there was uncertainty that the league would get a handle on dealing with the virus. Even so, not a single game was canceled this NFL season despite the pandemic. Now just one game remains with Super Bowl 55. Goodell says 1.2 million fans attended NFL games this season. There will be around 25,000 fans in attendance for this Sunday's Super Bowl in Tampa. A member of the Kansas City Chiefs personnel has contracted coronavirus. According to ESPN, the team's barber tested positive for COVID-19. The sports network states Chiefs backup center Daniel Kilgore was getting a haircut when they found out and has been deemed a close contact of the barber. The Chiefs placed Kilgore and receiver Demarcus Robinson on the COVID reserve list. Kilgore and the barber were wearing masks. Both players could play in the big game, but they would have to get tested 5 times with negative tests in consecutive days.
We'll check this out at 5:25. A wealthy Houston furniture tycoon is placing one of the largest Super Bowl bets of all time. Jim Mickingvale is known as Mattress Mac. Sports gambling website The Action Network says he's putting down more than $3.4 million on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Action Network reports that's the highest Super Bowl wager this year and just shy of the highest ever. It says Mickingvale also bet against the Chiefs in last year's Super Bowl, so I think he's got it out for them.
Well, and Mattress Mac is known to bet huge amounts of money on sporting events. I remember during the Nationals and the Astros World Series, he put a huge wager down on the Astros to win, I think, and they didn't. So
maybe not this. I know you're rooting against him, right?
I'm rooting for the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm going with the Missouri team. You have to, you know, if you're from there, you got to support the hometown team.
That's right. Coming up next on Good Morning Northwest, a bill to expand Washington sports betting beyond tribal casinos is back on the docket.
Plus, find out why Boeing is now outsourcing hundreds of jobs to another company.
And of course, those winds continue out the door this morning, but will they stick around for the upcoming weekend? I'll have that full forecast coming up during the 5:30 half hour.
We are capable of vaccinating over 45,000 people a day. All we need is the doses.
Coming up on Good Morning Northwest, we're tracking the race to get people vaccinated across Washington state.
Plus, with former President Trump's second impeachment trial is just days away, why his legal team is refusing to let Trump testify.
And those winds are continuing this morning with a wind advisory in place. More details, that Friday forecast, it's coming up.
From Camp KVUE Local News, this is Good Morning Northwest.
Happy Friday, everyone. Just about to that weekend, but Kristen, Neil, I think you guys can agree when we woke up this morning, at least the wind was howling.
It was. You know, I don't even think I slept at all last night. I felt like I was tossing and turning. I felt like my house was about to get blown away with just how strong those winds were. But early this morning, as we're starting off with that live look, the wind will continue for the first half of the day. The good news is we will see some improvement to our wind the second half of the day. So a live look right now in downtown Yakima. Those winds and they have been picking up for you since late last night. You can see those wind gusts for Yakima at 43, 32 in the Tri-Cities with your gusts, and then close to 35 in Walla Walla, 52 right now for the current wind gusts in Dayton. So really kicking around out there. We have those mountain snow showers that will continue through the first half of the day today as well. But locally, as the sun comes up, we will see some sunshine back with us for today. Temperatures right now, we're starting off at 47, Tri-Cities mid-40s in Walla Walla, and then close to 50 degrees in Yakima. So you can see numbers. We're going to be close to 60 degrees today and enjoying some of that sunshine. But I am tracking the wind that could possibly return for this weekend. I'll have that full forecast. It's coming up.
Thank you, Kristen. Governor Inslee says around 10% of people in Washington have gotten at least one dose of the COVID vaccine, and he says the process could go faster if we had more supplies.
We're averaging about 28,000 vaccinations per day. This is good news. This is twice the number we were doing just about 2 weeks ago. So we now are capable of vaccinating over 45,000 people a day. All we need is the doses. We need the vaccine. Obviously, we can't vaccinate people without the vaccine.
As of this week, more than 770,000 vaccine doses have been administered statewide. Last month, the state moved into Phase 1B of the vaccination plan, which was modified to lower the age of eligibility from 70 to 65. Phase 1B also includes those age 50 and older who live in multi-generational homes. The mass vaccination site at the Benton County Fairgrounds in Kennewick is giving out hundreds of doses every day. You do have to make an appointment and make sure you qualify for the vaccine before you show up. We have much more information to help you do so on our website, yaktrinews.com. Yakima County officials say they still don't have enough vaccines to open up their drive-through mass vaccination site at State Fair Park. Last week, Yakima County commissioners and local healthcare organizations sent Inslee a letter asking for vaccines. Officials say he hasn't responded to the letter or other requests for help.
It's just so unjust and unfair to people who desperately want to get the vaccine.
The letter says despite the fact that Yakima County had one of the highest rates of COVID-19 on the West Coast last year and makes up 3.3% of the state's population, it's only receiving 1.5% of total doses. The White House wants to resurrect a scrapped Trump proposal to mail masks to all Americans. White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain said yesterday that the Biden administration hopes to make progress on the plan in the next week. The idea came up last year in the Trump administration, but a senior administration official told the Washington Post at the time that the plan was scrapped by Trump. His economic advisors were worried widespread masks could create concern or panic. House impeachment managers are asking former President Trump to testify in his upcoming Senate impeachment trial, but a former Trump advisor says that won't happen. The lead impeachment manager, Congressman Jamie Raskin, made the request formally in a letter. He wanted to get Trump on the record about his conduct surrounding the January 6th riot at the Capitol. Raskin cited Trump's denial of factual allegations set forth in the article of impeachment. He also reviewed details regarding the start of the Senate trial next week. He's proposing that Trump should testify as early as this coming Monday or no later than Thursday of next week. A voting technology company is suing Fox News and some allies of former President Donald Trump over election fraud claims. Smartmatic filed a $2.7 billion lawsuit yesterday. It alleges election conspiracy theories jeopardized the company's survival. The theories included that Smartmatic's technology allowed the November vote to be rigged against Trump. Trump's former personal attorney Rudy Giuliani and pro-Trump attorney Sidney Powell are named in the lawsuit, along with Fox News hosts Lou Dobbs, Maria Bartiromo, and Janine Pirro.
We've learned Boeing is cutting hundreds of jobs and outsourcing most of its IT work to another company. That move starts in April. Boeing hasn't said how the job cuts will spread out between its offices, but the company has also said it plans to cut around 5 million square feet of its factory and office space over the next few years. Boeing has the world's biggest manufacturing building in Everett. One of the world's largest consulting firms is having to pay up for its work with opioid manufacturers. McKinsey & Company has reached a settlement with dozens of states worth $573 million. According to a statement from New York's Attorney General, McKinsey raked in millions of dollars by helping opioid companies market their drugs. The money will go to states involved in the lawsuit to help fight the drug crisis. In 2019, McKinsey announced it would no longer work with Purdue Pharma, the company that makes OxyContin. More than 750,000 Americans filed for the first time unemployment benefits last week. Those 779,000 claims are down from 812,000 the previous week, but still several times higher than from the same time last year. When you include the almost 350,000 self-employed and gig workers who filed for assistance, the total number is 1.2 million workers for the week. The number of continued claims, which counts people who have filed for at least 2 weeks, is 4.6 million. It all adds up to a job recovery that is still in deep trouble. In Washington, supporters of a bill to expand sports gambling beyond Indian casinos and into privately owned card rooms say the measure would increase jobs and tax revenues. But but opponents say an expansion would take money from the tribes who use the casino revenues to fund their operations and social programs. The director of the Washington Indian Gaming Association said it would be irresponsible for the legislature to allow sports betting to benefit of out-of-state people. No action was taken after yesterday's hearing. The Senate bill seeks to expand sports betting to include the state's licensed cards rooms and horse racing tracks. We don't know who will win Super Bowl 55, but the big sports betting and fantasy firms are already champs. DraftKings shares have surged nearly 35% this year ahead of Sunday's big game in Tampa. The stock is up nearly 260% since it went public last April following a merger with a blank check special purpose acquisition company. This is the third Super Bowl since the Supreme Court legalized sports betting at the state level in 2018. That means 2021 could be the best year yet for gambling giants. Football fans in more than 24 states and Washington, D.C. now have the ability to legally bet on sports online via mobile apps or in person at licensed sports books.
5:36, it's now time to raise the flag here on Good Morning Northwest with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Someone will make history Sunday in a Super Bowl so filled with storylines it would fill a season of TV programming. Tom Brady now going for a 7th ring, and Patrick Mahomes, the apparent heir to the quarterbacking summit, seeking a 2nd in a row with Kansas City, something no team has done since Brady led New England to the double in 2003 and 2004 seasons. And if it wasn't enough, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes is now an expecting father.
We're extremely ready. We're excited. We have all the things planned out and every single gadget and tool you can have to be great parents. But at the same time, I'm trying to tell her to hold off until after the game. But whenever it happens, it happens. But if we can wait till maybe a few weeks after the game, that would probably be ideal.
Mahomes and his fiancee Brittany Matthews are expecting the arrival of a baby girl, but the due date is being kept under wraps. This brings us to our poll question of the day. Who do you think is going to win Super Bowl 55? Will it be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady, or the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes? Vote now at yaktrinews.com/vote, and we'll have those results at the end of the show. Coming up on Good Morning Northwest, more states are pushing for prisoners to get the COVID vaccine.
Now, Cap gave you first alert weather with Chief Meteorologist Kristen Walls.
And those winds have certainly been howling overnight last night and into this morning. There's a wind advisory that is in place. We can actually see some wind gusts, at least for the first half of the day today, up to 50 miles per hour. And then even more wind in the forecast as we start your weekend on Saturday. So we'll see a little bit of a break this afternoon. Winds will start to pick up once again by Saturday. Of course, we're looking at a little bit of some mountain snow this morning, and then some mild temperatures actually over the next couple of days before we see a drop in temperatures by early next week. So we're expecting some 50s out there for the next couple of days, even close to 60 degrees today. And then some 30s will return Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So a big drop from our average, which typically for this time of the year is 46 degrees. So there's the wind advisory that is out until noon today. So during that time frame, we could see some gusts that could be as high as about 50 miles per hour. And we are seeing that at least around the Dayton area this morning. Some of your wind gusts close to 52, but these are sustained winds. So this is what those winds are hanging on to. So 24 in Yakima, 18 in the Tri-Cities. But again, looking at some of those gusts currently right now, 50 for Dayton, 34 in Walla Walla, and that current gust in the Tri-Cities up to 32. For Yakima early this morning, your current wind gust at 43. So you'll see here some improvements as we take you throughout your afternoon. It will still be a bit breezy from time to time, 10 to 20, but certainly nothing like we're seeing out the door this morning. And then once again, those winds really kicking up here for Saturday afternoon. Some of those wind gusts could be as high as 45 miles per hour. Now, winter weather advisories will continue as well for the eastern slopes and the Cascades for the next hour or two. And then for the Blue Mountains, a little bit longer for you, an additional 3 to 7 inches. So for the Blue Mountains, that actually goes until 3 o'clock for this afternoon. So you can see that the activity in the higher elevations, but locally for us at the lower elevations, elevations, looking at some sun to return once the sun comes up this morning. And then there's that system as it moves in from the north early this morning. So there's some travel restrictions through Snoqualmie. Past traction tires advised. White past traction tires are required. And there could be some blowing and drifting of some of that snow as well as those winds have been kicking around. So here's Futurecast. Again, really noticing the snow winding down over later on this afternoon. Those winds will improve for us locally. A little bit more snow moving in here for Saturday for some of those mountains. Locally, that's when our winds will pick up. And then we could have maybe a snow shower or two into the mountains. Those winds will die down for us locally on Saturday. And we're looking at that partly sunny sky. Temperatures, though, out the door this morning, we're starting off at 47 Tri-Cities, mid-40s there in Walla Walla, close to 50 degrees in Yakima. You can see where our numbers are going to be heading, though, for this afternoon. 54 Yakima and 56 degrees in Toppenish. Close to 60 today in the Tri-Cities with 56 in Prosser. And then those low 50s for Walla Walla and Pendleton. So for tonight, we're looking at a pretty quiet night, lighter winds. Again, those numbers should be dipping down into the upper 30s and low 40s. So there is your 7-day. Pretty quiet despite some of those winds kicking around. 51 on Sunday and then turning much colder next week with some sunshine. Could be a bit breezy there Wednesday and Thursday of next week. And then your 7-day forecast for Yakima. Winds still around on Saturday and then lighter winds by Sunday, and it will be a bit cooler with a high of 47.
Thank you, Kristen. The 10 Senate Republicans who met with President Biden this week on his coronavirus relief package sent a detailed letter to the White House laying out a series of concerns about the proposal. Despite the nearly 2-hour meeting in the Oval Office this week, the deep divide between Biden's $1.9 trillion plan and the $618 billion GOP proposal still persists. Biden has said he is willing to go forward without the support of Republicans using a Senate budget procedure that would allow Democrats to pass the measure along partisan lines. But he also has said he is willing to make certain concessions if it will earn bipartisan support. The House voted yesterday to remove newly elected Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia from her committee assignments. The vote was 230 to 199. 11 Republican House members voted with Democrats to remove Greene from the Education and Labor and Budget committees. Greene spoke on the House floor earlier in the day in an effort to defend herself. She said she regrets past remarks that have been the subject of controversy in recent weeks. The uproar stemmed from her conspiracy beliefs and racist comments. Before being elected to office, Greene expressed support for QAnon and various conspiracy theories. Millions of Americans are still waiting on government benefits for unemployment and food assistance. The number of Americans on food stamps increased by more than 1/5 during the pandemic, many using those benefits for the first time. And while the government did increase the amount of money going out by about 15%, advocates worry that won't be enough to make sure all families have food on the table.
SNAP benefits came in, perfectly to help me subsidize the meals that were going to increase because everybody was at home for every meal and every snack.
Many experts, and more fundamentally, the families who use it, are worried that it just isn't enough. So we're actually taking a look at that now to see if adjustments are needed to make it so that families can afford a basic diet with our benefits.
One of the many executive orders President Biden has signed since taking office calls on the USDA to boost emergency food stamp benefits and make it so more families can access them. Billions of dollars in expanded benefits are also part of Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief plan that lawmakers in Congress are working on. There's a push underway in New York City for inmates to get vaccinated against coronavirus. A group of public defenders and the New York Civil Liberties Union filed a legal challenge yesterday against Governor Andrew Cuomo. The lawsuit concerns Cuomo's refusal to include incarcerated people in the pool of those currently eligible to get the vaccines. The suit is being filed on behalf of those held in New York City jails, but demands vaccines be made available for all incarcerated people statewide. The group argues that keeping vaccines from inmates in close quarters is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
9:57 in time for that close to home forecast as the wind has been picking up for today. Wind advisory in effect until noon. So we're still looking at some gusts up to 50, but the sunshine will return. And take a look at some of these temperatures. We're back up into the upper 50s, 56 for Pasco, into Burbank, Benton City today, up to about 57 degrees. We're starting off this morning with a little bit of some cloud cover, but overall turning mostly sunny. And of course, a breezy start for you as well. But 50 degrees today in Athena, Stanfield at 56. Touchy also jumping up to about 56 degrees. We will see that sun returning as well, so a nice clearing after that windy start. 55 in Zilla, 56 degrees today in Granger, with 55 for Wapato up in the Union Gap, and might see a shower or two early on this morning, but it will be a drier afternoon. Ellensburg at 48, 43 for Cle Elum.
Thank you, Kristen. Well, it's time to honor those who work hard to accurately forecast and report the always changing and often unpredictable weather. Kristen, that's you. Today is National Weather Person's Day. It honors all individuals in the fields of meteorology, weather forecasting, and broadcast meteorology. It also pays tribute to volunteer storm spotters, observers, and others who work in the meteorology field. To celebrate the holiday, send some good vibes to your weather person or anyone else working alongside them.
I never remember that it's National Weather Person Day. Every time I come in, they're like, oh, it's National Weather Person Day.
Well, I mean, you're so awesome, so we need multiple days to celebrate you.
You know what? And the fact that it falls on a Friday, hey, I'll take it.
Perfect. All right, coming up next on Good Morning Northwest, we're breaking down why experts say you should still follow coronavirus safety rules even after you're vaccinated. Plus, some grocery groups have filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Seattle over its new hazard pay ordinance. Good Morning Northwest continues right now.
From KapKView Local News, this is Good Morning Northwest.
Good morning, Northwest. A windy start to this Friday morning. I know when I walked outside, it was quite loud, Kristen.
Not the best hair day, especially if you maybe get ready before you go outside. Probably would not, maybe if you're a female, put it up in a ponytail if you can, because you're going to be disappointed once you step outside. Let's get you to that forecast early this morning. Breezy conditions as well in downtown Yakima. Wind advisory, that is in place until noon today. And you can see everybody is included in on that. Gusts at times could be up to 50 miles per hour. And we are seeing that at least out the door this morning. Dayton close to 50 degrees or 50 miles per hour. 29 mile per hour wind in Walla Walla, close to 30 in the Tri-Cities. And then 33 over into Yakima. And that's with this system that is moving in from the north. You can see some of those snow showers that will continue through the eastern slopes, Cascades, northern blues. But as the sun comes up this morning, locally we're expecting some of that sunshine, and that'll continue through the majority of the day today. So some 40s at least out the door this morning. It's not too chilly, but you can see the sun with us this afternoon, and even close to 60 degrees this afternoon. I am looking ahead though to your weekend. Another wind chance is ahead as well. I'll have that full forecast, Monica. It's coming up.
Almost 500,000 people in Oregon have gotten at least one dose of the vaccine. But getting the shot doesn't necessarily mean you can get back to your pre-pandemic life. KapKV's Madeline Hagan talked to local health officials about why you should still focus on coronavirus safety protocols.
It's important to remember that everybody's immune response is different. So the amount of immunity that you get after that first dose of vaccine varies by each individual person, which is why that second dose is really so important to get that immune level that we've been hearing about.
Carla Prock with the Benton Franklin Health District reiterating the importance of the COVID-19 vaccine. But 2 doses doesn't necessarily mean you should let your guard down.
We know our vaccine is really effective against decreasing those symptomatic infections and hospitalizations, which is the really critical thing. But we don't know exactly how effective it is against those new variants that you're hearing about.
Prock says it's important to still wear a mask in public, social distance, and avoid social gatherings.
We also don't know whether being vaccinated means you're no longer a carrier of coronavirus. So it is possible to be fully vaccinated and potentially still be a spreader of COVID-19 to others.
However, she says it's likely safe that 2 fully vaccinated people can visit, as long as they've given their bodies some time to build immunity. Prock urges those who are eligible to make an appointment for vaccination.
It is that personal responsibility to take care of yourself and to take care of others. We want to keep folks out of the hospital. We want to keep folks from getting very severely ill, and the vaccine does do its job there.
Even though the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are on the market, that doesn't mean research has ended. Proc says you can opt in to track any symptoms with the CDC. For Cap KVU Local News, I'm Madeline Hagan.